Hello, I'm Zachary Newell. Do you ever feel like humanity deserves a better world than the one we've built for ourselves? Personally, I just can't shake the feeling. That's why I'm here, to talk about what we've been doing and how we can do it better.
Welcome to Better Futures.
Hello, my friend. How are you doing
Hi,
today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, thank you.
Good.
So, should I introduce you or would you like to introduce yourself?
I guess I could do a little brief intro. So my name's Kevin McKinley. I'm from the metro area of Twin Cities. I've been involved in some capacity with local socialist organizing for a while. It was a long time ago now. I think it was about 2016. I was the fifth member who started the charter for Socialist Party USA. We have since disbanded for a number of reasons. That's kind of a long story, but at any rate, that's about my level of experience with organizing, running that party for a couple of years, and then also being involved with some other demonstrations. We put some things on. I've also just spent a lot of time just keeping up with this stuff. And I've been asked today by yourself, Zach, to do an interview about this stuff.
Yeah, I asked you because I consider you a very articulate voice for a socialist position.
I appreciate that.
Hey, anytime. So I'd like to start out by asking, just in a very broad sense, what about human society, civilization, or just our activities as a species are we failing to do, or are we doing wrong in terms of creating a better life for everyone who lives on this planet?
That's a really great question. And I guess first off, I'm assuming you mean on the individual level, right? Yeah. And I have given this question a lot of thought. And one thing that I see is that people don't trust each other. And it is kind of scary out there. I've kind of spent a lot of time looking towards Mr. Rogers, actually, as a big source of my theory. You know, right now, I'm not considered a communist. I would be considered a communist sympathizer because I'm not actively participating in a party myself. I have no party who can guide me in my own actions politically right now. So technically, while I would like to be a communist, I'm only a sympathizer because communism is about participation. It's about action. And I think people need to emphasize action more than ideas right now, because a lot of us think that we have ideas. We think of ourselves as having certain political positions, but when water gets hot, when push comes to shove, sometimes we don't really find ourselves aligning with what we think we align with. And so I think we all who are on the left need to do some deep soul searching and find out what is it that we are truly about. And if we aren't really about what we want to be about, what is blocking us? We need to do our own political education on ourselves. If we have false consciousness, if we have false ideas about the people around us, we need to be able to recognize those in ourselves and be able to correct that. My last year, I put my job up on Facebook as a volunteer social worker because, I've spent my time on unemployment, mostly reaching out to the people on the streets around me. I live in an area right off of freeway exits. It's a low income building. There's a lot of people who need things around here. So I spend my time reaching out to them. The point is, if you can't find anything politically to do in your area, then just reach out and be a good neighbor and try and always keep politics in mind when you're doing that.
I see. I can definitely appreciate if you can't think of anything better to do, I suppose, or if it's just a little too conflicted in terms of the politics side of party organizing. It's just kind of a general grassroots mutual aid. Definitely.
Yeah, if you don't know absolutely anything about politics, if you try reading about socialism, or if you get on Left Book and you're like, God, this is overwhelming, this is a lot of bullshit, well, fuck Left Book, and ignore most of what internet communists talk about, because that shit doesn't matter. What matters is who's in your community that needs something right now. And the idea is that you can't create something by thinking it. You only create things by making them. So if you're always just thinking, I went through a phase where I was kind of frozen or paralyzed, actually, after the Socialist Party kind of broke that up, thinking, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? Fact is that there are people who need help. But there's a lot more to it than that, but you have to just start somewhere. And I think you got to put the rubber to the road and then figure out the details later.
Well, that really reminds me of how you had started out by saying that we don't really trust each other, at least in contemporary American society. And perhaps part of the reason we don't trust each other is because not enough people are really taking direct action in that regard in terms of simply being a good neighbor.
Right. And being a good neighbor is the best way you can lead the vanguard, because everybody's scared of everybody else. And it's not fair to expect everybody to just go out there and try and make things better. It's just, if you find yourself feeling like you need to do something, though, be that person who isn't scared. And, sometimes there's bad consequences that come with helping people. Mistakes are made, but that's also just part of the greater process of it. You can't get hung up on screwing things up slightly. If your heart's in the right place and your intentions are right, if you know what your target is, a better way to say it is that you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You know, right now we really do need a party in this country, and there's some organizations that do great work. But I'm strictly speaking from the perspective of a poor white. So, you know, this kind of gets a little bit off track with what I was saying. But, you know, my position comes from one of somebody who doesn't have a proper class per se. And this is kind of based on Jay Sakai's theory, which is expressed in Settlers, The Myth of the White Proletariat. You can find a copy of this book at readsettlers.org. That's readsettlers.org. There's a free PDF there. It's a very controversial book on left book. If you haven't read it before, I mean, I think the subtitle kind of says it all, but that book is a big inspiration on kind of where my theory comes from and why I don't really have a party, and I'm not really trying to start my own party or really get involved, because frankly, as a white communist sympathizer and a poor white at that, there aren't enough poor white people in this country to constitute a proper class. We're such a sparsely populated group of people that we're just kind of peppered throughout the country, and we don't have large enough, robust enough communities to really have class force. That's why most of my political work is about supporting the communist movements, and the communist movements that are being led by Black and Indigenous peoples, and also just not necessarily communist, but organizations that seek to support them, because I kind of see those class groups as the vanguard.